Cosentino. I'm the Senior Manager of Industry Advisory Councils with CompTIA. The goals today are fairly simple. I just want to help define and discuss the value of the channel, the partner programs, including the distribution models. I want to take a look at the different channel partner types, how those channel partner types have evolved with the new emerging technologies that have come to fruition. Take a look at some best business practices for building a successful channel. It's a high-level overview. Some of it may seem a little bit like common sense, but these are basic steps and tools you should utilize to build a successful channel program. And then from that, take a look at some of the performance metrics that you can use to evaluate success. So CompTIA does a lot of research and industry reports. This little phrase really talks about the channel ecosystem and the landscape. I just want to give you a brief summary of how CompTIA summed it up on our 7th annual State of the Channel report. The channel landscape is changing dramatically because of emerging technology and new types of partners. Having a deliberate, well-orchestrated channel model that stays aligned with business transformation market dynamics is critical for long-term channel success. The build, pilot, evaluate, and perfect model is more important than ever. So the first thing I want to take a look at is what is a partner and what is a good partner. I think this word cloud does a really good job of summing up some of the things that associate with a good partner. Technical acumen, ability to invest, sales capacity or ability to sell products and services. To sum it up briefly, a channel partner, a good channel partner, is constantly evolving with emerging technology. They're not solely relying on their technical acumen. They're looking at business process management, service delivery, and business skills to really help provide value to both your vendor partners and the end users. So we want to take a look, okay, how big is the channel? So in the IT channel, I found this slide quite interesting. It's a large number of companies. So roughly in the IT channel, there's over 133,000 people that are involved as potential partners. When you break that down a little bit further, it's primarily based in that micro to small business level. Micro firms are 1 to 9 employees, roughly about $1 million in revenue. That makes the biggest majority. So it's good to understand what these partners are and how their business model works. If you break it down a little further, you can take a look how this 133,000 breaks down, that 113,000 are solution providers, integrators, consultants, system builders, and MSPs or managed service providers. We'll talk a little bit more in detail. About 15 to 16,000 are those direct marketers like your CDW, your Tiger Direct, your vendor authorized resellers or VARs, MSPs, software installation services. And the bottom end rounds up with computer facilitation, management, and services. So it's a lot bigger even when I went to do this report than what I expected. So now that we've seen the size of the IT channel, what are some of the primary businesses that are offered by channel firms as of last year? So CompTIA is known as one of the largest not-for-profit IT trade associations. We do a lot of industry reports and tracking. So when we took a look at these primary services that are offered, we did this over a 5-year period. And it's kind of interesting to note some of the shifts and changes and some that are directly correlated to emerging technology. So we took a look at the primary services. Not surprising, managed IT services is number 1. It's typically remained at close to the top of the list. It's actually the first time this year that it's reached the top. What we found more surprising is with consulting as it relates to business and technology. What we're finding is a lot of these companies that specialize in taking ownership of the technology and integration are relying more solely on the professional consulting acumen. They're taking a look at these clients from a holistic approach on their IT environment, the cloud-based services, and business performance outcomes. So that's why we see that taking a rise. Software as a service, or SaaS, you may be familiar with. Integration work is really the backbone of the channel. That's always going to remain on the list. Another surprise that we came across was data analytics. So data analytics, when you take a look at the typical size of an IT channel partner and the small size of that IT channel partner, you wouldn't think it would make much sense over a 5-year period. But with the new emerging technologies, with cloud, and the new tools that are available, it's allowing these smaller partners to really help compete in that marketplace. Security infrastructure, I don't think I need to tell anyone about. I think I can go a day without seeing a report about someone getting hacked and the importance of IT infrastructure. Break fix, still there. It's not going away anytime soon. Another one that came up new on the list was customer app development. So what's surprising here is we're seeing a lot of these companies take the shift to more application software services to deliver customer apps. So this is a new one that's been added to the list as well. How are our partners trying to differentiate themselves? One of the best ways they can differentiate themselves is specializing in vertical industries, whether it be mobile payments and whether a variety of other services. If you take a look at this graph, you're going to see the top of the chart. That's the size of the average partner. So it's the small, medium, and large. Overwhelmingly, partners dabble in the professional services being accounting, legal. Some interesting facts behind that, though, is these professional service companies are starting to disrupt the channel a little bit in doing some of the services of a traditional channel partner. A great example is accounting companies. I met with a channel professional from Intuit. They actually work with accounting firms that actually resell their services to their potential partners and users. So they're taking a more active role in delivering their services. They're giving a little more service expertise because they have the accounting background. So those are some additional partners that you may find in the channel. And surprising as well is manufacturing. When I saw this list, I was a little surprised by seeing manufacturing up there. I think this directly correlates to IoT, or Internet of Things, if you're familiar with that. These devices that go in these factories, they can measure certain things like temperature, structure, and the data analytics associated with that. We see that as attributing to the rise in working with that vertical. Retail and wholesale, that's typically the market of mobile payments, has always been up on the list, as well as healthcare and financial. So you kind of get an idea of the advantage of being to be a subject matter expert, to specialize in the vertical, and the importance, if you want to partner with those verticals, to partner with an expert. So why do I want to build a channel? So what are some of the reasons you're looking to build a channel? You need to get into the mid-market to sell your product or service. So we take a look at IDC reports that in the mid-market, which is roughly just under 1,000 employees, accounts for 50% of the total IT spend. So that's roughly about $152 billion that's available into that mid-market. So if that's a market you're looking to get into, the channel partner program is a great way to do that. Your product or service is not standalone. So I'll use the example, let's say I'm a software integrator or a SaaS company, but I need that hardware infrastructure person to help sell my services. So the partnering opportunity exists there to make that solution possible. Your growth opportunities includes new geographies. So for example, CompTIA did some research recently when we talk about overseas markets. That overseas in EMEA and APAC, in the UK, roughly 80% of the IT recruiting comes directly into the IT channel. That these companies, these vendors are using these IT channel partners to really help sell and represent their services. So it's a good way to utilize the channel. Your growth strategy includes opening new vertical markets. It may be a new vertical market for you, and this is what we talked about in the earlier slide. You want to partner with those partners that are working in that specific vertical. They're going to have the relationships, they're going to have the subject matter expertise, and they're going to have the trust of the partners that they're trying to work with. Your product or service or line of business is not exclusively or is outside of business IT. IDC again reports that roughly 61% of the IT decision-making processes are done outside of the IT and more on the business side. So you may want to work with a particular partner that has that relationship, that has that subject matter expertise, or is reasonably located to the type of partners you're trying to work with. We also took a look now at this emerging technology, the impact it's having on the partner ecosystem. What are we seeing out there in the marketplace? What are some changes that we're talking about? So what CompTIA did is we researched a lot of partners in all sizes and scope, from small to the enterprise level. We wanted to know, hey, what are you seeing out there in the marketplace? And overwhelmingly across all segments, small, medium, and large, they're seeing cloud-based internet software vendors or SaaS partners doing a lot of selling direct to the end user. Another thing I learned more about as I was working through this presentation is digital marketing agencies. Digital marketing agencies are taking a lot of the work that the channel does in working with potential vendors. Those can be developing e-commerce sites, web development, and other resources to really help gain exposure for these businesses to find new prospects and new leads. We can also take a look at the other ones they've seen as vertical industry-specific application firms. So these may not necessarily be technology companies. They may be companies that have a particular market that they serve. I use the example of medical billing that deals exclusively with doctors. In that particular example, if you're someone that wants to partner that works with doctors, you want to work with these vertical industry-specific partners. We've already talked about accounting and law firms, but it just gives you an idea. We also did the same survey with our partners is, are you working with these new type of channel entrants? And I found this kind of surprising that roughly 42% said yes occasionally. Another 22% says no, we're planning to do it soon. What we see here is if you can't beat them, join them. When we talk about these new channel entrants and their level of specialization, specifically as we talk about SaaS type organizations, there may be partnership opportunities where, let's say, they have the software, but you have the infrastructure or you have the hardware required to do that service. So being able to partner with them is one way you can utilize working with these new entrants to grow your business. There are some challenges with this, however. Typically, unless you have a clear guidelines established with the people you're partnering with on how the relationship's going to work, how commissions are going to be paid, how that whole thing is clearly defined, we found that these partners may do it as a one-off. It may work well, but then it may not work well in other situations. But we are liking the fact that the willingness that the traditional IT channel is embracing these new technologies. Which leads me to my next slide. So we also took a look at our current IT channel partners. Are you engaging with new and emerging technologies? Whether it be artificial intelligence, blockchain, payments, IoT, virtual reality. What we found kind of surprising here is that such a large number said they're actively engaged with working with these new emerging tech companies, that they're partnering with these companies. And over 29% are in the experimental stage. So what that's saying there is, yes, they have a willingness to work with the partners, but when you look at the bigger picture and you kind of break it down a little further, as CompTIA is going to do a report on this, is that it may be only one line item. For example, IoT devices. They're embracing and selling the IoT devices, but it only accounts for a small portion of the revenue. So while they're willing to do the work, it's going to take time for that partner to evolve into being able to sell those services. In the same respect, we asked those same group of partners, what's your perception of emerging technology? And this is over a 5-year period. I like to draw the analogy as when we did this same type of question with cloud services. How is it going to impact the channel, positively or negatively? Overwhelmingly, when we talked about cloud services back in the day, the channel thought it was a bad thing. It was going to hurt the channel, and it wasn't good for growing the partner business. Obviously, that was proven wrong, and it's nice to see the more of a half glass type full situation here with business perception of technology and emerging technologies. Over 75% thinks it's an opportunity for the channel. That's a huge number. And only roughly 14% actually perceive it to be a threat. So what I want to do here is provide you a very simplified overview of the partner business model. Taking a look at this slide here, it looks very, very simple and linear and how that relationship works. For your respect, I'm not going to get too much in the weeds, but I'm going to give you a high-level overview on how that relationship works. So we have basically two types of relationships. Vendors can work directly with partners. So you being a vendor can work with a partner. And these partner types we're going to talk about and define further on in helping expand your reach and scale into gaining new business. That's how that relationship works. When you throw in the distribution, it may seem like you're adding an additional level, but actually you're gaining a lot of additional resources. Economies of scale, the buying power that distribution has, the ability to do marketing, to provide other services, training, and tech for your partners is a huge value to why people partner with distributors. So why indirect channels? Use it as a force multiplier. And I was a little worried this morning that, okay, I'm going to have to do a little bit of math here, so I'm going to keep it very simple. Having done 18 years of sales, I know from a perspective that I can probably manage anywhere between 25, at most maybe 50 accounts based on the size and availability. So that's my limitation as being a direct sales rep. What the indirect method does is allows you to utilize partners to help expand that relationship. While it may look a little different in the sense that I directly interact with my end users, how the indirect channel works is that you have in your organization a CAM, or we define it as a channel account manager. A channel account manager is someone's sole purpose is to work with your partners in helping them to sell your products in the channel, to provide support, to do the onboarding, to bring on new vendors. That's their resources. So let's say I use the example. I manage 10 accounts. Well, now I'm working with the partner channel. In my CAM, now we have 10 accounts that are selling partners, that are selling the services. Each rep has 10 sales, each company has 10 sales reps, so you can see how it expands your ability to reach a broader audience. And we'll get more into the details of other ways the indirect channel can help you grow your business. Do you have a question or just stand up? Okay. Why indirect channels as it relates to distributors? Distributors provides a better level of, or higher than a better level, of larger level of access to partners. The reason being is that you're working with an individual vendor, they work with the solution provider and then their partners. Now you have the distributor model where they have tons of vendors that they work with and they have tons of solution provider partners. And those partners obviously give you more opportunity and a better way to expand your market into reaching new potential prospects. And on top of those things, excuse me. This next slide is a very, I think, complicated, but I'll keep it simple, method of how a distributor model works. So you as the manufacturer or vendor can work through the distributor. The distributor can provide additional services from a marketing standpoint. They can help support your partners with education and training and marketing and logistics. And then they funnel that through the value-added reseller. The amount of value-added resellers is exponentially larger than working directly with the vendor and gives you opportunity to grow your business. So partners add value and build brand equity. Here's the nice thing about it and kind of what I summarized. Having salespeople, you don't have to pay to increase your revenue. You're going to do a margin sharing opportunity, but now you're going to have salespeople that you don't work direct for you that can go in these markets and help you take a look at how you can grow your business. I wanted to focus on a few of the pros. So here's the reason why the indirect channel system can help you grow your business. Low sales, marketing, and distribution cost. Your channel partner probably has an established presence in that particular market or relationship with that individual customer. They're known and trusted by those local customers. So when I look at it from a direct sales perspective, it's going to take me a lot longer to try and penetrate that client because I don't have the relationship, I don't have the trust. By working through the channel partners, it gives me additional opportunity to make that sale more likely and speeding up the process. You can reach new markets and customers in a more effective way. So the model looks like you're going to have to hire more salespeople if you're going to deal with that direct model to help grow your business. By utilizing a channel account manager, which manages many partner accounts, now those partner accounts can go out there and position your services and give you access to markets you traditionally wouldn't have with the direct method. Effective scaling. So if you have a well-established partner program and you're finding your business is growing exponentially, if you have the right processes and systems in place, it gives you the opportunity to scale accordingly so you can adjust to the market changes to help grow your business. The network of local partners can help you establish a presence with a very low overhead investment. You don't need to incorporate or manage new companies. You don't need to advertise locally because you're going to provide them with marketing materials and then they're going to go out there and position their services. You don't have to hire people for remote locations. You have a sales force. You don't have the employer liability with that sales force, but you have the exponential numbers to help you grow new business. So that gives you a very brief, high-level overview of the partner ecosystem, but let's take a look at the different types of partners. So the first ones we're going to talk about is VARs. How many familiar have heard the term VAR before, or value-added reseller? Okay, a couple people in here. So they represent many vendors, and really what they're driven by is they can offer a lot of diverse products. Some of them may be competing to really give their clients option on price. You have solution providers, which kind of can mirror VARs, but they're more in design in their market of their individual owned solutions, and they're more specifically targeted on one technology, product, or service. You have your managed services provider, or MSP, offer hosted carrier and cloud services, work with vendors in developing and implementing infrastructure and application capacity, and work on an ongoing recurring revenue billing model. What's important to realize their model, because it also comes into play when you're deciding compensation of how you're going to work and share margin with your partners. Then you have your system integrators. They're a combination of both VARs or solution providers. They design the infrastructure, plan implementation from start to finish and completion. They cater more towards larger businesses and mid-market enterprises. You have your direct market resellers, which is the CDWs of the world, which I understand is going to be here presenting today. So those are the ones, traditionally, when you think of a DMR, they're really volume-based. They're price-based customers is how they work. But you're seeing the evolution in that particular model. I think CDW is a great example of that, of how they're getting into selling more integrated technologies. We're already in that market, and professional services. Referral partners. These are the easiest type of partners, I think, in my opinion, just because their goal is just to help provide you leads. You provide them tools on how to position or how to ask the right types of questions. They come to you and provide referrals. And referrals will generate and pass leads to your direct sales force. You then can work them and you can be supported by the organization. Interesting to note on the referral program how compensation is made. So it can be a one-time, it can be a short-term, or it can be a long-term reoccurring compensation plan. Things to keep in mind when you're working in this type of model is I've had examples with one IT company that had this referral plan, did a long-term revenue sharing of profit for having those new accounts, and then these partners would sell one big account and wouldn't do anything else. So they're not effectively being very beneficial to the company beyond that initial sale. So in that particular case, it's important when you're designing your channel program, which we'll talk about a little further, to have some processes in place. Well, if we're going to do the long-term commitment to the revenue sharing, then you need to do a certain amount of activities, a certain amount of lead generation that turns into activities. We also have this new group called the new influencers, and they're not necessarily technology companies. They can be, or resellers. They could be consultants or marketers. They can be social media people. They push people, make recommendations towards your company, product, or service, and they can be like bloggers. So the nice thing about it is that you don't directly need to compensate these people, but they're available in the marketplace, and it's something you should consider as you're looking at your partner programs. The one thing I did leave off this presentation, and I think it's really important to talk about, is vendor-to-vendor partnerships. Everyone thinks the partner model is the vendors partnering with the solution provider, different types of partners that are out there. Vendors have complementary products. I'll use the example with Cisco. Cisco partners ConnectWise to offer a product or service to the small and medium business customer. Now, if I'm the small and medium business customer and I only have to deal with one product or service and not multiple product services from multiple vendors, it's definitely a huge advantage. And we're seeing a lot of that starting to take place in the channel. What we're also uncovering with the emerging tech is these adjacent channels or new models. And I've kind of talked about this a little bit. So we have accounting firms. We talked about how they're doing reselling software services from Intuit and other examples along that, but they're also getting into other things like compliancy assessments and cybersecurity assessments. So they're working and providing these services as part of their business model. The same thing we talked about again was marketing and PR agencies as a way to substitute some of the things that channels are doing. The website development, the e-commerce, consulting implementation, lead gen, search engine optimization, mobile app development. These are these new models that are evolving to address the needs of emerging technology. So we've taken a look at different partner types. I guess one question in the mobile payments, who works with partners in here? Give me an example of the type of partners that you work with, or one of the examples of the partners you work with. And how do you work with CDW? So it's primarily a resell business. You provide them the product or service, they resell it. They're not doing anything beyond that, correct? And how's that relationship been working for you? Excellent. Anyone else have an example from a different company? Okay. So what we want to take a look at here is from a very high-level perspective, taking a look at some of the best practices for building channel programs and partners. Now, I've taken this directly from some CompTIA research, our CompTIA channel primer, to really give you a very high-level overview of some of those things you should consider when you're developing a successful partner program. Step one, validate the market. Is it good? Does a partner program make sense? Do your market research. Understand what your solution and what your product offers. Develop what is your client profile? What's the typical type of client? What's their specialization? How would I mirror that to working with partners? Understand your competition, their strategies, their pricing model. Once you've done that, you really need to define who your ideal partner is. Are they ready? Do they have the resources? And by ready, I mean, do they have the skill sets? Do they have the technology know-how and relationships to really be effective? Are they a cultural match? And this is a real key piece that I constantly see in both our research and outside research. It's very important that your company's culture matches the type of the partners that you work with, that they have the right skills, the same objectives, because that's ideally fit to make a good channel partner. Are they willing? Does your partner opportunity help them achieve their goals to grow their business, generate revenue, whatever specifications that may be? And of course, are they technically fit and a competence fit in order to sell those services? Setting goals and outlining commitment. You really want to clearly define what do you want the partner to do from a sales perspective. What's your expectations of bringing in this partner on? What do you want them to, how do you want them to benefit your company? What are you going to do? How are you going to support the partner? What type of compensation or margin sharing are you going to do with the partner? What's the reporting system? Are these commitments realistic? Are they just a pipe dream? You want to, by doing your market research, You should have realistic opportunities and goals in outlining your commitment. Do you have everything to deliver with them? When you have a partner program, depending on the type of partners, you may need to provide marketing research, technical research, sales support with pricing and those types of things. Also, while you're looking at this, you want to understand what are some potential challenges or barriers into doing this market. Take a look and see if these partners are going to work with this particular market segment. What are some challenges they're going to have? It's also going to help you decide what the commitment is going to be and help develop that marketing plan. You also want to ensure your company readiness. Now, before I worked with industry advisory councils, I worked with our vendor community, and I've seen vendors do partnering very well, and I've seen vendors do partnering not very well. Some of the characteristics I saw from vendors that don't do partnering very well is they don't have complete buy-in from an executive level. Oftentimes you may have the direct sales force competing with the indirect or the channel account managers in that particular model. So these are things you want to make sure that you have top-down level of support while you're developing this program. You need to have a channel team in place. So a lot of these companies that are getting involved with the channel, you need to have what we call a channel account manager, someone whose responsibility is to work with your partners to recruit new partners. This person needs to be trained and understand how the channel ecosystem works. They also have to be supporting them on deals, establishing them with pricing. They're the go-to resource. They're not selling direct to the end user. They're working solely with your partner ecosystem. You need to have the tools and resources, and that's the marketing and technical resources. If your partners are going to go out there and ask the right questions, if they're going to position your product or service, do they have the marketing support and materials they need in order to do it effectively? You're leveraging their relationships. You need to support them with the content. Channel escalation paths, and this can encompass a lot of things. I'll use an example. Channel escalation paths as far as how the sales progresses up. You find a partner, they find a deal opportunity for you, they're bringing the deal through. You have your direct sales rep says, no, that's my account. So you may have some additional channel conflict. So you need to have the right processes in place to help address issues like these. Ability to support and provide technical training. So as the emerging technology comes to fruition, some of the products or services may evolve, they may change. Some of these new partners may have certain skill sets, but they may not have all the skill sets required to be successful. You need to have the ability to provide additional resources to provide technical training so they can talk the talk when they're meeting with your potential end user partners, end user clients. Product and service readiness. You need clear product messaging. If I'm going to go out there and I'm a partner working for you, I want to make sure I'm being able to tell the right story. They need to have access to that information and how you get them access to the information. A lot of companies utilize what we call a partner portal, which is a website where they can pull specs, price lists potentially, and information. While you may not be at that level yet as you're working with your partner programs, it's good to keep that in mind because these are the resources that your partners are going to need. Very simply, competitive pricing. So when you take a look at it from a pricing perspective, how the channel ecosystem works is you have a certain degree of margin you make on your product. You work with your partners, you give them a percentage of that margin with the expectations now that they're giving you access to new markets, new opportunities, and really helping you grow your business. So as you do considering the pricing model, consider your competition, consider the fact that you're giving up part of that revenue sharing to make sure you're price competitive. Again, you see an overwhelming theme of service and support. You need to be able to support on competitive bids. If they need to do special opportunities, you need to be able to provide the access that they have and the resources that they can close the deal by giving them additional support that they need. Building and executing the plan. Again, this goes along with engagement and training. While they may have the technical knowledge, they may not have the technical knowledge specifically on your product or service. You need to be able to do that, and you need to have the right communication models in place in order for them to do that. Here's one I think is probably one of the most important pieces that as you start to develop your program and you start to experience success, don't rest on your laurels. When you talk about channel programs, you talk about emerging technology, you talk about the overall evolution of what's taken place, you consistently want to seek out your partner's feedback. Give them a call, schedule a meeting, find out the information of what's working, what's not working. You really want to utilize those tools of information to really help constantly look at your channel program and evolve it to be more successful. One of the key benefits is talk to your top performing partners. Find out what they're doing well. Why are they selling so much? What are they doing that's making them so successful? Interview them, get their information. Take that down and create a partner playbook of best practices. So now you've just taken a look at your best performing partners understanding they're being successful for these reasons. I'm going to onboard new partners. Now I have a guideline, kind of like memorize before you customize. Here's what's working well out in the marketplace. Here's what you should be doing as you're starting to launch your services to these end user clients. So help to be them more successful. I want to touch upon this briefly. Is now let's say you've developed your successful channel program. You want to be able to measure that success. So this is very summarizes some of the key ways you can do that. Some of them are very basic in understanding, such as sales volume, sales capacity, service capacity, lead generation, whether it be internally through your company, in and off the channel partners in different geographic regions, or whether it be from your partners generating revenues to you. You want to look at attached sales and average sales values. And without going to all the other things that are on this list, these are criteria you should really consider when you're going to be working with new partners, because not only once you have the program in place, you want to have the right metrics in place to measure that performance. And I know I went over a lot and I talk a little bit fast, but are there any questions on anything that I've discussed so far? Yes?
You talked about the performance measures for selecting a partner potentially. After the lead is made, what would be the best practice to kind of track the SLAs and hold the partner accountable for the SLAs?
I'm sorry, I had a little difficulty hearing you. I apologize.
One second.
My question was regarding the best practices to hold the partner accountable for service level agreements, SLAs, that are kind of put in the contract. And what would be the best practice to track that? And of course, to kind of convince that.
That's a great question, and I think that's a question that Jeff Ponce will probably give you a little more specific answer in his relationship within working with the channel. It's kind of a general question because depending on how those SLAs are defined and how that relationship works and how you have the revenue sharing or margin sharing. For example, let's say you have a vendor partner. When you set those goals, if you're going to be a partner, you need to have these amounts of activity, you need to have this amount of opportunity, and this amount of percentage to close. If you meet this criteria, then you're successful in keeping that reoccurring revenue or that revenue model. If you don't meet metrics, then you don't participate as a partner. Think of it almost like having a direct sales rep. That person's working for you. If your sales rep's not performing or meeting those agreements, what do you do with that sales rep? You either put them on performance plan or you get rid of that employee. The same thing can happen with partners. It's important to understand that. It's important as you go through that process, you want to find the right type of partners that allow you to do that. Your channel account managers are going to be tasked with this quite often. You're going to have a lot of partners that they'll sign up that may not be producing. And you're going to have to make those hard decisions if you have clearly defined SLAs or service level agreements or what they're going to do from a performance perspective. It makes that process easier because you can go back to them and say, quite simply, you didn't meet this criteria. We'll give you either a probationary period or we're going to lose you as a partner. It's kind of a long-winded explanation, but it really is general as far as how many different ways you had the relationships with your partners.
Other questions? Okay, I did want to add that Rob went over a bunch of really interesting information, but one of the things that's super important for you guys to think about is your financial metrics about what it might mean to you to actually have partners and how that might look. So one of the CompTIA members that I know has offered you guys a spreadsheet that you can use to plug in some numbers and sort of do like a pro forma about what you might expect to get from your partners. So if you're interested in getting that, please give me your card and I will email it to you because it is an Excel file. You'll need it electronically. So please see me at any point in the conference and I'm happy to share that document with you. The other thing that I did want to ask you about was additional training that they might be able to get beyond the awesome 45 minutes that you've spent with us today. I know that CompTIA has lots of resources.
So a lot of the information I pulled from today's presentation come from various CompTIA resources. We're the largest non-for-profit IT trade association. Some of the key things we do is provide information, training, tools, and templates for the greater technology community and business community. Being a non-for-profit organization, a lot of this information is free for you for just going to our website and taking a look at some of the resources. There's opportunities, as I described to our vendor partners. There's networking opportunities. There's research and reporting opportunities. Get involved with one of our councils and communities. These are organizations that deal in various technology disciplines or women in IT and those types of things to really help you gain exposure to people that are in the channel, that are working in the channel. And beyond what we do as CompTIA is depending on what type of markets you're trying to get into, whether it be specific verticals. Let's say, for example, you're trying to get into a legal vertical or you're trying to get into accounting vertical. Find out what trade associations belong to that particular market segment. Get involved with them. You want to talk to the people that have the exposure and have the subject matter expertise, understanding what some of their pain points are and how you can work with them.